Hello everybody, thank you for joining us today for our wonderful Valentine's Day class. Today we're going to learn how to make a winter citrus salad, a classic pasta carbonara, followed by some tiramisu crepes. So let's get started. You will see me moving my camera quite a bit, that way you can see my cutting board, my pot next to me, and kind of get in on all the action. So right now I'm just getting the pancetta for the pasta cooking, that way we can cook the pasta once that's done. We're going to hop back over to doing our salad. So this citrus salad is going to get a lemon vinaigrette, some arugula cheese, blood orange, a navel orange, some grapefruit, pomegranates, pistachios, and some good goat cheese in there as well. So first we're going to start off by making our lemon vinaigrette. Couple tools here. So the lemon vinaigrette, we're going to do the juice and zest of half of a lemon. We're going to use the other half for our goat cheese seasoning. So when I zest the lemon, I use something called a microplane. When I'm doing it, I'm doing having the insert facing up and kind of just running it along the lemon here, just to get that good zest. You don't want to get any of that white pith, as that tends to be a little bit bitter. We just want to get all this good zest with all that good lemon oil in there. I'm going to put that right into our bowl that our vinaigrette will go into. And then I'm going to juice the lemon right through my sieve here, the juice of half of a lemon. I use the sieve to get all the seeds and the kind of inside of the lemon to not be in there. I just want that good juice. Okay, we got all that juice in there. All right, so I have my zest and my lemon juice in there. We're going to put a half of a teaspoon of salt in there. Put some Dijon mustard in. The Dijon mustard, it not only gives it a great flavor, but it helps to emulsify the vinaigrette, so it helps to bring it together. Dijon is an emulsification agent, which means it just lets the vinaigrette kind of get that more mayo-like consistency rather than nice and thin with everything separated. All right, so we have our mustard, our lemon juice, our lemon zest, and our salt in there. We're going to add our olive oil. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons of olive oil. One and 2. I'm just stirring the pancetta over here just so it can render out nicely so we can get right into the pasta when it's time. All right. So we have everything in there for the dressing except for the cilantro. We will put the cilantro in after we whisk the dressing together. So we're just going to whisk that up really nicely here. I'm just doing it until all the ingredients are mixed together. We're making here something called a broken vinaigrette, so it's not going to be perfectly combined. It'll be a little bit more rustic. All right, so I have it all mixed. And I'm going to take our cilantro and give that a nice chop. I like adding fresh herbs to vinaigrettes like this. It gives it this nice freshness when you take a bite of the salad. You don't have to go super small on this. You can definitely keep the pieces a little bit bigger. So I'm going like a little bit less than a mince. And we're just going to put that right into the salad dressing. Okay. We have an easy lemon cilantro salad dressing here that will dress these greens beautifully. All right, up next we're going to get all of our citrus cut. That way when we go to assemble the salad, the citrus is already ready to go. So we have a navel orange, a blood orange, and a grapefruit. We are going to use the whole blood orange, half of the navel orange, and half of the grapefruit. So when we are cutting this citrus, we're going to do it two different ways. For the grapefruit, we're going to do something called segments, and for the oranges, we're going to do half wheels. So when you're breaking down any citrus, you really want to make sure that we are cutting it properly so that none of this white stuff is on there that is a little bit hard to eat, and it tends to taste pretty bitter. So I'm just running my knife around the edge and kind of tracing that white mark there. That's your guideline. That white mark is what you want to trace your knife along to get the skin off. So I'm just using that as a guideline. The goal is to have the least amount of flesh on your peels when you peel it. I get the question all the time, how do I break down citrus? Well, this is how you do it. Now, if you're left with some white on there, just run your knife along to get it off. Again, it won't hurt you, it's just not very pleasant to eat. Okay. Clean my cutting board. You always want to clean your cutting board so it doesn't get too messy. Grab some containers for my citrus. All right, so the segmenting of the grapefruit, all we're going to do is take our knife and we're going to cut out those natural inserts there. That's called a segment. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the natural lines there and run your knife in a V formation so that the piece of grapefruit just pops out. So again, just along those natural lines there in a V formation just to get that to pop out. We're gonna do, you can certainly do the entire grapefruit and put that in there. It'll just mean you'll have more citrus in your salad, and that's totally okay. But for the recipe, I'm gonna do half of it. Now, after you do this process here, you'll have quite a bit of juice left. You can juice it and throw it in your vinaigrette or do a grapefruit vinaigrette instead of a lemon. You could use it just to drink. Whatever you want to do with the leftover. Make a curd out of it. Okay, so I did the whole grapefruit, and I'm just going to use half when we go to assemble the salad. So you have these nice little segments here. Clean my board again. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the oranges. So we're gonna do the navel orange first. And this cuts a little bit easier. Again, you're gonna peel it the exact same way, guiding your knife along that white pith. Trying to get as much of it off as possible without getting too much flesh off of the orange. All right, and again, just run your knife back to get the leftover white off. All right. So the cut we're going to do on this, we're going to do something what I call a half moon. So you're going to cut the orange in half so that you have two sides here. You're going to lay the flat end on the board. And you're not going to smash your knife into the orange. It'll kind of ruin it. You want to just run your knife along. So I'm using the tip of my knife and I'm just running it through the orange really delicately just to get it sliced. If you use the back of your knife, it's going to kind of pulverize the orange. You just want to delicately run your knife through. So then I have nice half wheels here. You can see the thickness. So again, I'll show you again on this side. You're just taking the tip of your knife and just running it through the orange to get nice half wheels. All right, and finally the blood orange, my favorite citrus. So again, same process. You're gonna peel it with your knife, trying to get the least amount of flesh on the peels when you cut it, guiding along that white inside line there. I do blood orange last because the color tends to stain everything, so I want to do that very last. Okay, again, just running back over to get the leftover white that we missed. And we're going to do the half moons on this one too. So you start with the advanced cut of the segments, and then we move into the more simple half moons. You can certainly do half moons for the grapefruit if that you're more comfortable with that. I just kind of like the change up of textures, and with the grapefruit, I prefer the segment cut. So again, cut in half, flat side down, and just run your knife, the tip of your knife through to just get those nice slices, trying not to pulverize the orange too much. Okay, wipe everything down, get that purple color off. All right, so we have our 3 containers of citrus. We'll set in front of us. And our pistachios, all we're gonna do to the pistachios is just run our knife through them just to get them broken down a little bit. That way they're not whole pistachios on the salad. So just carefully run your knife through the pistachios to break them up a little bit. You could do this in a food processor, just make sure to use the pulse setting, that way it doesn't turn it into a butter. Now these pistachios are pre-roasted, so you want to make sure you either buy the pre-roasted kind or roast them yourself in the oven. When I roast nuts, I do them at about 300 degrees Fahrenheit, pretty low temperature, and I do them, you know, for a longer period of time. I find they toast up a little bit nicer that way instead of in a high oven. All right. So I have just nice broken up pieces, so you still get that nice crunch effect when you put that on the salad. Now, if you have any nut allergies in your house, you can certainly swap this out for any sort of seed. Pumpkin seed would be good, sunflower seed, or you could just omit the nut altogether. I just like it in there for that crunch. Right, again, just always cleaning as we go. All right, our final step to get this salad ready is we are going to season up our goat cheese. So we're going to put in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a little bit of cracked black pepper, just 2 turns. Again, we're going to zest about a 1/4 of a lemon. And then I'm going to juice half of the lemon. I'm sorry, a 1/4 of the lemon. This just helps us season it up and get it a little bit more pliable for when we spread it on the plate. And we're just going to, with a spatula, kind of mix that around and get all the ingredients nice and mixed in there. You could do this in a KitchenAid attachment or KitchenAid mixer and get it nice and whipped, but since it's such a small amount, I'm just going to do it by hand. All right, I have everything mixed up, and now we're going to assemble and plate our salad. Right, I'm going to use like a nice flat bowl type thing. You could certainly use a big plate. Like this, and spread it out. But I'm going to show it to you in this. Actually, let's switch. I'm going to show it to you on the plate. So, we have our arugula. What we're going to do is a pinch of salt on the arugula. And then we're going to put all that vinaigrette in it. And toss that up. Now it's about 1 cup of arugula in there. All right, and we're going to take our goat cheese, put it all on the bottom of the plate, and just spread that out. Doesn't have to be like a perfect formation. I kind of do it pretty rustically, but just make sure it's on the whole thing, so each bite you have a bite of goat cheese. Now this salad will serve 2 people, as will everything else in this class. So I like to plate it family style. You could certainly plate it individually, but that way you can share it with your guest just off this plate as like a little family style thing. Okay, so then we're gonna put our arugula. You will have some dressing left on the bottom, but that's okay because we're going to use that to dress the top of the oranges. All right, and then we're gonna take all of our citrus and just kind of randomly arrange it. You know, random with intention, I call it. I always like to do an odd number of ingredients. It just makes it look a little bit more natural and randomized. And just kind of plug these in here. At my restaurant, I actually turned this salad into a toast. So you get a nice piece of toast, like an avocado toast, but no avocado and citrus and cheese and all the good stuff. All right, so then we're gonna put our pomegranate seeds just all over it. So although it's winter, you can still make something with a lot of color, a lot of brightness. You just have to pick your ingredients, right? Citrus is a winter ingredient, so this is perfect. And then our pistachios. Then I'm just going to take the rest of this vinaigrette and sprinkle it over that citrus. All right, so there's our citrus salad. Now you can certainly keep all your ingredients to the end and plate everything once we're done cooking everything. I just wanted to show you as we go how to plate these items. All right, now we're gonna move on to our pasta carbonara. Now I have the pancetta, as I said, already cooked, ready to go, all the fat rendered. I'm just going to keep it in this pan here, and we will bring it over into the pasta once we're ready for that. I'm going to bring my water over to boil the pasta. Now you always, I'm going to move my camera over a little bit so you can see the action going on over here. Okay. So you always want to make sure you salt your pasta water so it's salty like the sea. That way when the pasta cooks, the salt gets in there and it's nice and seasoned. All right, so that's almost up to a simmer. So we have our 8 ounces of noodles here. We're using rigatoni pasta because when you make the sauce, I like when all the sauce gets in those crevices there. Another good pasta I like to use for this dish is bucatini. Spaghetti's good. Okay, so what we're gonna do to start is we're gonna make the carbonara paste. So when I was traveling and working in Italy, we made this dish a lot. I was just outside of Rome, and this is like one of their key dishes. And I learned this technique of doing the carbonara paste. So basically what it is you take your eggs, you whisk the eggs up so they're all mixed. Now this is a mixture of 3 yolks and 1 full egg. I like to use more eggs because I like when this dish is more eggy. And then we're gonna put this is a mix of Parmesan cheese and Reggiano. So we're going to just mix that all up. And it'll turn into this nice little paste here. You can see it thickened up a little bit. It's exactly what we want. And we are going to do 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And mix all that together. And then one thing I learned in Italy was if you've ever had cacio e pepe, that's the pepper and cheese dish, carbonara actually gets quite a bit of pepper as well, just like that dish. So we're going to add some now, and then we're going to finish the dish with pepper. So you can do it to your liking, but I like quite a bit in there. I did probably about 10 turns of that pepper. I always use freshly ground pepper instead of the already ground stuff because I find the already ground stuff is too spicy and just not to my liking. All right, our pasta's at a boil. I'm going to add our rigatoni to it and set my timer for about 8 minutes. Now, once you're done, pasta's done cooking, you don't want to throw this water out right away because we want to use some of that water when we mix the pasta. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the rigatoni, drained out into another container, save some of this starchy water, put the rigatoni right into the paste and get it all kind of saucy and really nice, and then add a little bit of pasta water to get it really creamy. That's kind of a trick with any pasta sauce. You always want to add a little bit of that starchy water to kind of creamify it a little bit. So the reason I saved this plate is because we're going to plate the pasta in this plate. So I have that ready here. Now, since we have everything ready for this dish, while the pasta cooks, I'm going to set everything aside and we're going to move on to the crepe. We're going to learn how to make that crepe. So for the crepe, I have melted butter, water, milk, eggs, and flour. Got our mixing bowl. Okay. So we're going to whisk together our flour and our eggs. So cooking is a lot about multitasking, especially when you are doing, a 3-course dinner like we're doing now. You want to make sure that you're not just standing here waiting for the pasta to be cooked. We're moving on to something else. That way everything can be ready. So the flour and the eggs are mixed together. Now I'm going to add in our milk and whisk that. And add our water in. Mix that up. Our salt was in with the flour. If you're wondering when that goes in, you can put it right in with the flour. Okay, now we're going to add our melted butter. Just mix that all up. Crepe batter is fairly simple. The reason I made it first is I want to let it rest because I'm mixing around all that gluten. I want to make sure that this rests a little bit before we cook it. So I'm just mixing it until it's smooth. Crepe batter is fairly thin, so that's totally okay. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to strain this out. I always like to strain it just to get any leftover clumps of flour out. I'm just kind of pushing it through a little bit to get all those ingredients in there. I'm only doing this just to have a nice consistency to this batter. I'm going to keep my whisk closed in case when we go to make the crepes, we need to whisk it together a little bit. All right, so I'm setting that aside. Crepe batter's done. I'm going to come back to our pasta here and just check it a little bit. We do still have 4 minutes left on the cook, but I wanted to just see where we're at because we want a nice al dente pasta. We don't want it mushy. All right, so we're still a little crunchy there. So I'll let it go a couple more minutes. All right, I'm gonna get my KitchenAid mixer out so we can do the mascarpone aspect of the dessert. So to start, we're gonna mix our egg yolks, coffee, and sugar. Now I'm just gonna leave out a teaspoon of sugar because we need that for the egg white when it's time to whip those up. So I'm gonna do actually a half teaspoon of sugar just left out. So we're ready for the egg whites. So I have 8 ounces of mascarpone. So this is just the same filling that you would do for a regular tiramisu, or I guess mascarpone topping, and I'm just using it in the crepes and kind of just making a different version of tiramisu. I'm actually going to move my cutting board out of the way because we no longer need it, and I'm going to replace it with my KitchenAid mixer. This pasta again. All right, it's looking like it's close. Just gonna try it. Definitely needs the 2 more minutes. So I always like to set a timer for a guideline, but I don't just let it, leave it. I like to check it as it goes in case it's speeding up a little bit more, but timers really tend to be consistent. You always just want to make sure you check. For this step, egg, coffee, sugar. We're going to put our sugar, our egg yolks, and our coffee into the mixer. And we're going to beat this for about 3 minutes. I'm doing it on like a medium-high speed. We're just looking to get volume to dissolve the sugar here. All right, we're going to pause up because the pasta's ready. So I have our paste. Set a little towel out to put the pasta down on. All right, so I'm going to take my little strainer to get the pasta out. Shake it off a little bit, and it's going to go right into the paste. Now don't worry about shaking off all the water because like I said, that pasta water is really good and helps to get a really nice sauce together. All right. So now all I'm going to do is literally just mix this all together until all the cheese is melted, the egg yolk is covering all that pasta. At this point, I'm going to add the pancetta in there. And mix it on up. Now I'm not adding that pasta water quite yet because I want to see where this is at and how much pasta water we'll need. Little taste test. So good. Okay, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of pasta water. Make sure it's hot. Mix it all up. Now I like it extra saucy. Add some more black pepper. taste test. Wonderful. And this is all going to go into my nice plate here, ready to be served. Scrape out all the extra goodness there. I'm going to top it with a little bit more black pepper. We have wonderful pasta carbonara here. Okay, now back to that dessert. So we have about 2 more minutes left on whipping these egg yolks. While that happens, I'm going to get my pan set up for making the crepe. So you can see in here, this sugar mixture with eggs is getting like a white color. That's exactly what you want it. That's incorporating air and getting it nice and fluffy, so that white color is exactly right. Alright, so it's been about 3 minutes. This grew in volume and changed color. Sugar's dissolved. It's exactly where we want it. So, nice espresso flavor to it. Now we're going to add our mascarpone and beat it for 3 to 5 minutes. This is an 8-ounce mascarpone. I use the brand Belgio, so it's easy to find at the store, and I find it a very consistent and decent brand. You can also make your own mascarpone cheese if you know how to do that. It's very, very easy, actually. Okay, now we're going to whip that for about 3 to 5 minutes. While this is whipping, I'm going to show you how to make the chocolate sauce. So for the chocolate sauce, it's very easy. We're going to put a cup of cream into a pot. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of instant coffee powder. And we're going to bring that to a simmer. Going to whisk that coffee powder in there. So we have coffee in the mascarpone and in our chocolate sauce here. So the crepe will act as that ladyfinger component of the tiramisu. And then the coffee's all in there, and we'll have the chocolate. All right, looking at the mascarpone combo, it's looking good, nice and light and airy. I set my timer for 3 minutes, so I have a minute left out of that, so we'll see where it's at in 3 minutes. Our coffee and cream are up to a simmer, so I'm going to add our chocolate in there and just mix it up into a nice chocolate sauce. Now, the reason you don't want to melt the chocolate first is because I find the chocolate burns. So essentially what we're making here is a chocolate ganache, a thin chocolate ganache so that it's nice and saucy. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. Yes, I like putting salt in the desserts, brings out the flavors. We have a nice liquidy chocolate sauce. Taste it a little bit. Very nice. You can get that the bitterness in the coffee, and you get the nice chocolate flavor, and it's a nice consistency. I'm going to turn that heat off. All you're trying to do is melt it all together. You're not trying to cook it or reduce it or anything, or it'll burn. You just want to bring it all together. Alright, that's our 3-minute timer for our mascarpone. We are just going to check it. All right, I'm going to let it go 2 more minutes. I'm going to hop back here. My crepe pan doesn't work on my burner in front of me, so I'm going to hop to the back and make the crepe, and I'll show you kind of the formation of how I do it once it's made. So to start for the crepe batter, I just got the butter melted in the pan. And I'm going to do about a 1/4 cup batter in the pan. And you'll see I'm just moving it around to cover the whole bottom of the pan. These crepes cook very fast, so I'm just moving it to get the whole bottom covered. And it's on like a medium-low heat as to not give the crepe any color. Alright, our whipped mascarpone is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape it into my bowl here because we have one more component to this, which is the egg whites, which will give it a lot more volume, and we're going to fold it in once that's done. So we're going to whip these egg whites to something called a stiff peak. And we're going to do that with the whip attachment. My crepe started to bubble, so I turned the heat off. I'll show it to you in a second here. Okay, so in our mixing bowl goes that sugar you set aside and the egg whites. And simple as this, we're just going to whip them together until they are at stiff peaks, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Basically, it's when you dip your finger in the egg white and it holds up. And we're on high speed for that. Alright, so my crepe batter is cooked. Carefully fold it over to get out. See how I have no color on there? That's exactly what you want. I'm going to put it on the plate. Our stiff peaks are almost there. We're going to check it to see if it's stiff. It's exactly what we want. Nice stiff peaks there. It's not falling down. Super quick and easy. All right, and all we're going to do here is fold this into our mascarpone mixture here. Very carefully because you don't want to deflate all your hard work there. So I did about half the mixture, and I'm just going to fold them together. Okay, we're going to do the other half now. Okay, so nice and fluffy, airy. I have our crepe out on the plate. I'm going to drizzle some chocolate sauce on the bottom of the crepe. And some of the mascarpone inside here. I'm going to fold the crepe up. And then top it with some of that stuff as well. A nice spread of the mascarpone there. Chocolate sauce. And then finally we're going to finish with some cocoa powder. We have a nice little tiramisu crepe here. Taste it. Mmm, delicious. All right, so that is 3 dishes. We're done. You're ready for Valentine's Day to celebrate. If you want more recipes, follow me on my website, which is gracegowdy.com. I also have Instagram and TikTok if you're interested in those. Thank you so much, and enjoy.